I'm Master Ferdinand from Sri Lanka. Presently, I'm sitting at one of my good friends' residences. It is the setting sun. Today, I would like to speak on Chinese development projects. Will it bring rainbows to the lives of Sri Lankans? Or, in other words, one may say, will yesterday's teardrops will be tomorrow's rainbows to the sons and daughters of Mother Lanka with Chinese development products, or we say projects, or even their products, even we can call it. When one looks at the Chinese development projects, there has been a lot of criticism on it. Well, to the former government, they say that the development projects were not well, what you call, planned out. But one must think that in a development projects of the Chinese, we have to do what they say, or their development projects, and we have to give the contracts to them. So this brings, especially in countries like China, they give a lot of back payments, or we can call contract commissions, to the various governments that are in power that take their projects. So when you think of it, anywhere in the world where there are Chinese development projects going on, these commissions are already there. When we think of the development projects that the Chinese have already done here, especially the road constructions and even the railway line constructions, they are, one may say, or may call it, we can't call it very high standard, but it is of some standard. And the job is being done. If we wait for places like the World Bank and all to help us in these projects, it will take donkey's years. And they bring in a lot of unwanted conditions, especially when these development projects are taken into account. But not so with the Chinese. Though they are, what you call, interest rates are very high, you go ahead with the project and you finish it off. And that way it brings a better quality of life to the people. And one must not forget that China is the richest nation in the world, according to the World Bank, with 17 trillion US dollars. So it has a lot of money to invest. And in the same way, one must not forget these development projects, the Chinese also benefit from it. Because when they do a development project here, their unemployment problem also is solved to a great extent. And their goods and services also go up, or in other words, their national income also goes up. So it's the development project helps both parties. It helps us and it helps the Chinese also. Although we have to pay back to them in very high interest rates, but still, when one looks at it from economic point of view, the project is good for the sons and daughters of Sri Lanka. When we look at our history, we have already had 3, what you call, revolutions here, or what we call 2 youth uprisings and ethnic conflict. And if one looks at it socially, we can say it is economic reasons that brought about all this. So governments taking Chinese making the Chinese development projects into bringing it into focus and doing it, is one cannot find fault with them, because what we need is economic development. Especially if you have an educated population, you have to give them the necessary infrastructure and the necessary the things that they can fulfill their aspirations. Otherwise, what happens is, there can be deadly revolutions. This can happen even in China. If they are unable to keep their economic growth at that 10%, there will be deadly consequences, social consequences, and especially if there's an uprising in the People's Republic of China, the consequences can be deadly. But many people speak about the vice also that comes with the Chinese development, that you can't help it. Even the port city project, there was a lot of criticism on it. But already vices already come, you can't stop it. If one thinks of if one walks in the cities of Colombo 4 and Colombo 3, one can see this. For example, if one comes out of Sunday Mass, especially early morning Mass, then one can see many of these Chinese lasses on the road. And many of the parishioners at that time only have maybe a cup of bed tea had only a cup of bed tea with them. Or they are not fit state even to say paan, but they are greeted by these Chinese lasses who are walking about the place, or in other words, they are just coming out of the casinos that are in operation. So when you go to see China, in its economic development has helped the whole third world, especially countries like Mother Lanka, have developed immensely with Chinese aid. And especially the present government, they have put a stop to some of the projects saying that there's been a lot of corruption. But still, what I feel is Chinese aid will have to be taken for us to move forward economically, socially and politically. If we want to have a stable economy, we will have to go for this Chinese aid, what you call development projects, even at a high interest rate. It is, when you go to see, before this change of the present government, there was a lot of economic activity with these Chinese development projects. But presently, things have come to a standstill. But I think with the new government, once the new government is brought into focus in Mother Lanka, things will go back to its normal level and Chinese development will go on. And the people of Mother Lanka will have a better quality of life. In other words, people, when they go to mass and come out, you can see they're like bees chased out of a hive. They all come out with a lot of hope and aspirations. And these hope and aspirations can be fulfilled if there's economic development in the country. And for economic development, there should be nations that are helping, that are willing to help us to develop, even with a high interest rates. So with these thoughts, I will close.